All right, I think we are live. Start that there. Hello, y'all.
Welcome, welcome.
Yes, welcome. Oh my goodness. Um, this is happening, and that's all. I'm kind of starting with. Thank you, everyone, for joining. For those who are joining right now, please, at this time, turn your cameras off for the live stream. We are prioritizing the speakers and the ASL interpreter. And if you could help us take care of that in the chat by, just gently letting someone know that that's what we're doing. And Elena, can you are you sharing host privileges appropriately?
I am not yet a co-host.
Okay.
If someone can make me a co-host, and it appears the chat function is limited to you right now. Great.
Awesome. How do we share the chat function with everyone? Oh, I got it. There we go. Thank you, Elena.
I just also want to say, as we're sort of getting ready and doing some of the housekeeping things, it's beautiful to see everyone. And this is obviously a new thing that we're trying out. So we appreciate your patience and compassion as we talk about some difficult stuff and figure out some difficult things. So yeah, this is going to be improv at its finest.
Absolutely. With some guidance. Melanie, how do you feel about getting started now?
Let's do it.
Wait, before we actually get started, I realized, do we have an ASL interpreter on with the camera on? We would like to have that. And are we good with transcription, Troy, or transcribing?
We are working on it, and I will put the transcription link into the chat once they are going.
Awesome.
And again, just for folks who are coming in, we ask that it's great to see your beautiful faces. And once we see you, what up? We ask that you please, hey, Marian, if you can close your camera so that we can prioritize ASL interpreters to be on the main screen. We would appreciate it. Thank you so much. So Jay, whenever you're ready, just give me a countdown.
Okay. All right, let's do it.
Whoo, y'all. Welcome, welcome. I am Melanie.
And I'm Jay Bowie.
And this is the Dance Union.
Town Hall for Collective Action. Yeah, it's just to say that it's both an exciting time internally for the Dance Union and also a very heavy time. So please put that into context when you see us jump back between heaviness and joy.
Yes, it is all the things. We want to thank you for taking the time to come through and be here with us. And we are here in response to Nana Chinara's open letter to arts organizations rampant with white supremacy. There will be a link of the open letter shared in the chat if you haven't read it. I know many of you have. So just check that out. And as Nana mentioned in her letter, this is a systematic problem that shows up throughout our dance community. And even further, it's reflected by these ongoing lynchings of Black people in our country and the effects of living in a severely mismanaged pandemic. Many of us have been and are organizing a lot of anti-racist work and moving through ways to dismantle white supremacy. This town hall's intention is to hold a space for our dance community to express our righteous anger, to witness our grief in our community, and to synthesize this information into action.
Because we are based in Brooklyn, I would like to acknowledge and pay my deep respects to the Lenape people and elders and ancestors, past, present, and future. To my African ancestors who fought through every form of white supremacy, and living elders who passed the tools of knowledge down to us to help ensure our survival, thank you, thank you, thank you. Join me in acknowledging and thanking the land that supports us, provides for us, and nourishes our bodies, our many, many bodies. Thank you. The point of the dance union, honestly, is to lean into these tough conversations that need to happen. So if we're going to talk about dismantling white supremacy, we have to hold ourselves accountable to the practices of white supremacy that we benefit from, uphold, and are complicit in. We are aware of how this town hall was organized with a very specific context of the dance community, as well as a very specific group of people that we have personal relationships with. And we are attempting to address that by inviting members of the street and club styles communities. Actually, I wrote that incorrectly. We did attempt to address that by inviting members of the street and club styles community to speak at our town hall. And honestly, this is what one of them had to say. And this is a quote. Okay, I'm going to keep it 100 with you. I have no idea who these people are, and they were talking about us, the dance union. If you want to create a consensus, back to the quote, if you want to create a consensus of street club artists who are ready to organize and mobilize, I'm down for that. I am not, however, about to throw my hat into something that I do not know. I would definitely need to see that my art is being held at the same regard as theirs, and not only because I am Black that I am invited. We cannot lose sight of fixing our internal situations as well as our outer influences. As we enter into this town hall for collective action, dismantling white supremacy in dance institutions, we must be forever curious about how our dance making processes, audition processes, education courses, and overall hierarchy of art that support white supremacy when we organize under dance and leave out dance styles and practices originated by people of color. And of course, we organize under dance with the context that specifically means ballet and modern often. The dance union is committed to curiosity, living in questions and conversations around accountability, putting prose into practice, and engaging in deep listening with the dance community. Nana Chinara's open letter to artists, organizations run rampant with white supremacy and current uprisings that are happening right now across the country. While during COVID-19, before and going on as well, has a lot of righteous anger flowing. Many of us are and have been organizing and working in ways to dismantle white supremacy where, when, and how we can. The town hall's intention is to hold a space for our dance community to express their anger, witness the grief of our community, and synthesize that information into action. We see this in future town halls as a space to stay connected with the current organizing work and to galvanize our dance community to take action. The dance union is intentionally untied to any institution for purposes like this, and we hope that that context supports collective action. We are currently exploring ways of organizing that puts anti-oppression rhetoric into action. This is why we are inviting you to this to help us dream of this reality together and actually co-create this reality together. During this town hall with the speakers that we have invited, we will be practicing a specific deep listening practice that was developed during the making of this town hall, co-created with the hands of the people who lended their hands to help us. So when we invite a speaker to speak, we will listen to them, and we will listen to them, and we will listen to them, and then we will respond to them with what we think we heard. And we will await confirmation and affirm confirmation. And then once we do, we will ask them to turn what they said into a My Dance Union Has statement. This is something that if you've been listening to our podcast, we end every dance union with My Dance Union Has, and it's often reflective of the conversation we had. So for example, My Dance Union has warm cookies out of audition rooms to help ease some of the emotional pain of being cut. as well as my dance union has collective action with all the dance members involved to change and dismantle white supremacy. I think I just got to go over one more thing. The agenda, just a quick flow of what's about to happen tonight. For those of you who are on live, you're going to have a very specific experience that is separate from those who are registered for the Zoom call. Those who are registered for the Zoom call will be put into breakout rooms to discuss and to continue the listening process, but with smaller groups, but in specific topics. And then they will report back to us with the action steps. And with those action steps, we will share those notes publicly after the town hall. We will create some action. We will connect people to organizers. We will align, and we will get the work done. But that's for those who are on the Zoom call. For those of you who are live, when the breakout session starts, many of our friends are going to go into that space, to the separate room, which you will not be able to see or experience. And we will continue the live town hall with you. And we will be taking comments and questions from YouTube to respond to, just as we were responding to the speakers. And then they will come back, review, and we'll close this thing out.
Hi, Jay, please make me host.
Who is that?
Troy.
Troy, got you. Thank you so much. Melanie, can you bring a speaker in?
I sure can. Thank you, Jay, for offering that sort of grounding foundation. It's so important. And also just reminding us of the deep listening practice that we're all working on here and moving forward. So for one of our first speaker we're going to bring to the mic is Mariah Weathers, and we invite the speakers to come and share with us their experience with dealing with white supremacy in their artistic lives, their work lives, just any kind of information they would like to bring forth. So take it away, Mariah.
Thank you. I want to start with a round of acknowledgements, adding on to the beautiful acknowledgements that Jay made to start us off. I want to thank Melanie and Jay for the invitation to participate, and more importantly, for all of your work in support of the dance community and Black dance artists. This work has been ongoing and is greatly appreciated and needed. I want to acknowledge all of the Black activists who have worked long and hard before me and before this moment have gotten us here, as well as the next generations and beyond. I'm humbled by your vision, energy, and generosity. And a special shout out to Nana Chinara for her courage in speaking up and posting the open letter. First off, I am an expert of my own Black experience, period. White supremacy and dance organizations in my experience has taken many forms. I experienced it from the inside, as my approach was to infiltrate these organizations and try to be that voice at the table, the color in the room, so I could show up and be present to advocate for artists of color. White supremacist spaces depend on the ability of BIPOC folks to compartmentalize our experiences in order to be appropriate and professional, which means not causing white colleagues discomfort. As part of the efforts, more recent efforts of these white dominant institutions to try to bring in anti-racism and anti-oppression trainings for their staff, which I think is great and important, I worry that there isn't enough support for Black and POC staff members, because those conversations inherently re-trigger and re-traumatize us. So that's a question I want to pose. How are we supporting BIPOC staff in white dominant institutions? White supremacist spaces perpetuate an organizational culture of passive white supremacy. So that comes through in many different ways, through micro and macro aggressions. White supremacist spaces do not align their organizational mission with the values that they claim, and it doesn't align with actions that they take or do not take. I think this moment is a really great snapshot. It's important that these white dominant institutions are posting their solidarity statements with Black Lives Matter and coming out against the systemic violence against Black people and people of color. However, if those statements are not included and embedded into your mission statement and your plan of action, then it doesn't really mean that much to me. I need to see how you are embedding this in your organization, how this will come from the ground up and be part of the way that you approach the work that you do. I need to see it. And then also white supremacist spaces lack a commitment to accountability to artists, communities, and audiences, as well as their staff. This idea of reparations has been coming up, and I think that's very important. And I want to give a plug again for any non-BIPOC folks who are either on the Zoom or on the live stream. I strongly encourage you to make a solidarity donation. This happens today and so many times because of the work and labor and love of Black and brown folks. So for what you're getting from this time, give something back. Thank you.
Mariah, thank you so much for your statement. I would like to reflect back what I heard and just let me know if this is true. I hear that we need support for BIPOC folk, especially staff members, when we are triggered and re-triggered. We need transparency, and we need institutions to really embed into their culture from the ground up ways that they are fighting white supremacy and supporting anti-racism. And we also need institutions to be accountable to their staff, to their community, to the artists, to the people that they say that they serve, and the work that they do, how they do it, and how it's reflected.
Yes, thank you.
I would love to invite you at this moment to share with us your My Dance Union Has statement. So based off of what you just shared with us.
Yes, My Dance Union has conscious community, collective care, accountability, and action.
Yes, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So much, Mariah. I also invite everyone to repeat back the dance union, My Dance Union Has, with after each speaker. Let's just go ahead and like speak these things into existence together. Like, let's collectively raise our voices
And manifest
and
yes.
manifest this thing. Let's tear down the walls of Jericho, y'all. At this time, I want to invite Christine Wyatt up to the mic. Hey, Christine.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Jay. Can everybody just do like a little shake? I want to invite you, if you can, just to do a little. Yeah, I needed that. I miss being in dance spaces so much. So, yeah. Shout out to the class of 2020. Shout out to emergent artists, and yeah, shout out to people in the margins in the field, people who are new to the field. I speak from my experience as a student at a university. I speak from my experience as a freelance artist, an emerging artist. And I speak from the experience of, yeah, somebody who's tired of this shit. Sorry, who's tired of this stuff.
You
Yeah.
gotta apologize. We're tired of this shit.
Yeah. So just as an overview, I'm looking at my notes, right? Just as an overview, some of the things that I've experienced. Tokenism, this concept of policy over people. I've heard a lot of our policy doesn't allow us to da 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 da. The erasure of identities to fit into the mold of a company or a department or whatever. Yeah. Microaggressions, white organizational culture, i.e. all the damn emails. Exploitation, as in like the gentle slavery you got to do when you first emerge into the field, meaning the work that you do for free. Yeah, let's get into it. Ways that I've experienced white supremacy in dance institutions, and I like to consider white supremacy as white terrorism, white denial, and white fragility. the overall lack of care and action towards equity and better conditions for Black dance companies, Black students, and Black artists in general. Yeah, that then trickles down into, you know, those institutions not being able to afford to compensate workers and apprentices and interns and social media people and the people who sweep the floor. And yeah, yeah, shifting into some memory, the way universities overlook student voice and student leadership, how there's always an annual support for ACDA. However, sometimes it can be a scramble to find IEBD funds or funds for students to do their own, you know, whatever. Even down to experiences in the classroom where if a white student raises their hand and has a question or needs to see the combination again, it's no problem. But let a Black student ask and we get mocked. We get asked if we were paying attention. Yeah. I also want to quote Dr. Brenda Dixon Goschall. I hear a lot about minority this, minority that, da da dee da. We're actually the people of the global majority. We as in Black, Indigenous people of color. Yeah. I'm curious if we can move forward with a lens of reparations. What if the Black companies and dancers eat first? And then as it relates to Indigenous folks in the field, why are they asking for anything? This is their land, give it to them. The change in policy to serve people. I also got some insight into this. I went to a state university, and so a lot of times it's the laws that don't allow for this. How can we find the grayest of area that breaks the rule just a little bit, that kind of looks like we're not breaking the rule, but we're breaking the rule? And how can we facilitate whatever it is that the guest artists at our universities need, the students that are trying to facilitate their own, fund their own show, whatever? How can we make that happen despite the fact that the law wasn't written for people like me? Oh, I have to say this too. Maybe be upfront about the fees that come with these residencies. Like, okay, you're gonna give me $1,000 or $500, but you want $100 for the camera and $100 for this and $100 for that and insurance. That wasn't in the fine print. How can we be more transparent? Okay, and then I'm done after this. Why isn't African or the other forms of the diaspora also options for coursework? Can it replace this ballet requirement, or yeah? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. Oh my gosh. I just want to Ashe. You just kept the pressure on, sweetie, because that's really, oh, thank you for that invitation to that. To reflect back. First, we tired of this shit, right? That's what I'm hearing, okay? That we're tired of this policy over people mentality. No more of that. We're noticing that white supremacy causes institutional clogging and clogs processes and productivity. White supremacy is white violence. Universities are overlooking students, and that also relates to a certain kind of oppression of youth that we experience in dance and also within white supremacy. We are the global majority, bringing in Brenda Dixon Goschall and reminding us of the truth of this. We are the global majority. We want us to move forward with the lens of reparations and honoring that this is Indigenous land. That this is honoring that this is Indigenous land.
With actions. Okay, sorry.
With actions, yes, with actions and policies and monuments and thanks and protection. That you also want institutions to be active with dismantling laws. So we want to see them be active in understanding that the constrictions that are placed on them are often at a political level. So therefore, that's where the fight that they should be taking at. We're putting the pressure on you, now you put the pressure on what's putting the pressure on you. And that there's a great call for overall transparency. Is that what I hear?
Boom! Absolutely.
Can you put any of these statements in a dance, in a My Dance Union Has, and also I'm seeing in the comments that we're inviting people to take their breath, so please do take your breath and continue to stay within your breath, okay?
And drink lots of water.
Ashe.
Yeah, My Dance Union has real equity as care, real equality as love, and real justice as messy disruption of white supremacy and tangible accountability.
Thank you. So My Dance Union has real equity and care, real equality and love, real justice, and the messy dismantling of white supremacy. I forgot the last part. I hope y'all caught it. It's recorded and it's live. You know what I mean? So
that was good.
Thank you. I was scribbling. Thank you so much, Christine.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Christine. All right, up next we have Jonathan Gonzalez. Jonathan, are you ready to take the mic? I see you. Yes.
Yes, you see me. I see you. Hello, all. Thank you. Thank you to Melanie. Thank you to Jay. Thank you to Dance Union. Thank you to the speakers that have spoken and those who will be speaking. I feel like I'm visible. Thank you to Nana, who I think incited a lot of this, as said. I'm just trying to take my time because there's a lot to hold and I want to be conscious of my words very intentionally in this time. Thank you to the speakers who are going to speak and those who are going to be facilitating. I think there are many different legs that are both poetic or conceptual that I feel like I need to be sharing. And with 2 minutes, I want to try to talk maybe strategies that feel most available to me, so I can be using that time effectively, what feels effective to me. One is that movements that have been working, movements for the movement for Black Lives, Black Visions Collective, places and spaces geographic across this nation that are working to prioritize policy and liberty and justice towards Black life. And we can expand those practices as we look at AIM to think about Indigenous life. I'm located right now on Canarsie land. I'm from Corona, Queens, where the two rivers cross. I hold that very strong, being in the setting that was the epicenter of the epicenter as I speak. What would it mean for institutions, especially institutions that were speaking of relationship to dance, to make clear statements about divesting from NYPD, make clear statements about how they're going to prioritize those budgets that are received towards bail? Bail obviously bloats the carceral system. So what are other opportunities to think about putting money towards organizing, towards those movements that I've mentioned? And using the physical spaces that are right now dormant as sanctuary spaces, using those spaces in effective means that house people. Many artists also intersect with the homeless, right? Many artists also intersect those without healthcare. Many artists also intersect with those statuses of undocumentedness. And we have physical spaces available to us. Maybe some of us are administrators. Maybe some of us have institutions in our possession as artistic directors that we know are currently closed by way of state sanctioning. Now, what would it mean to show up and be messy bureaucratically, as was said previously, by opening those doors and making them available to people who are currently dying? So prioritizing dance as also being embodied together. 2, we need ecologists in those staff, in every administrator. We need Black leadership. And that can't be just representation, because we know that's a plot and it's a trap, and that's a huge part of art too. Being of a certain phenotype is not enough. You have to show up culturally. Assimilation is the project of neoliberalism, and it's loaded in dance. So if the ecologist who works on the staff is there, is organized, has that history, can speak very clearly to the way that the tenets and the pillars of your institution are accountable annually, whatever that procedure looks like. to undoing, to working towards anti-racist, because not just enough to not be racist, right? As Angela Davis says, we must be working towards anti-racism to undo procedures, which we know as business as usual, which is where microaggressions cause death. I got 2 more and then I'll be done. Hiring artists on staff, get artist salaries, give them salaries, commissions, create debt. The touring model is broken. It produces carbon emissions. It prioritizes extracting culture and bringing it into communities where the local artists don't get opportunities. We need to stop that modernist project. It's dead. It's done. So to localize art means the institution needs to know what its community is, and it needs to have definitions of that. And the artist, as defined by the institution, needs to be clearly involved in that process and procedure. And the community, as it pertains to what is programmed, should be localized. We need to see those tethers exist. What are the tethers between art making and community that are accountable, that people are receiving that inspiration that we know so well as artists and makers? And the last thing is that it also demands on all of us as art makers that we begin to transform the way that we think about our practices, which really defeats the high professionalization of art as we know in New York City. And I'm born and raised here, and I did the master's degree. And I'm just saying that the process and the procedure of becoming hyper-professionalized is also what kills us and corporatizes the process and keeps the community out from entering. So becoming honest with each other about the kind of scarcity that Black people feel in this procedure and making work that makes that system obsolete, right? So that I'll leave it there.
Woo, child. I mean, okay. Thank you, Jonathan. I appreciate you saying the thing about artists being ready to transform and get rid of this hyper professionalism, because I am going to do my best to reflect back to you a little bit of what I heard, but I'm so grateful we've got people in the background who are recording this and that this is being filmed, because yes, thank you so much. Some of the things that came to the surface for me that were on top is that there needs to be movements that prioritize the liberty and justice for Black and Indigenous life, that there needs to be a clear divestment from the NYPD and bail systems, that there needs to be money that is explicitly put toward the movements that we are currently involved in that is breaking down these white supremacist structures, that we look at the spaces, particularly performance spaces that are currently lying dormant, and seeing how they can become sanctuary spaces. What happens when we get a little messy with it and we open the doors. That in these organizations, ecologists need to be on staff. We need Black leadership. And it's not just representation, but how do you bring your culture into the situation? How does that inform how working environments exist and thrive? And that when you hire these artists on staff, put them on salary, give them some benefits. I'm gonna throw some healthcare in there too. Ooh, and this one was really big. That the touring system is broken. Like, let's talk about the ways to localize art. What does that look like? Yeah, those were some of the things. So did I get some of it? You didn't. Thank you. Thank you, Jonathan. Now I would love to invite you, with all these beautiful points that you made, to provide us with a My Dance Union Has statement. Thank you. My dance union has a demand to free the people, free the land by any means necessary. Thank you all. I appreciate you.
Thank you. And to repeat,
thank you, Jonathan.
Thank you. And to repeat back, My Dance Union Has, I missed it. What, Melanie, that was you. It's the Malcolm X grassroots movement. My Dance Union has a demand to free the people, free the land by any means necessary. I'm still feeling it in my visceral, so I couldn't articulate it. Yeah, we got it. We could say it over and over for the next. Okay, and again and again. Tear down the walls of Jericho, y'all. That's it. Honestly, I'm getting hot, and I'm not doing this performance-wise. How y'all feeling? Leave it. Let us know in the comments. I have to also make note that in, I think, about 4 minutes, the Zoom is going to initiate, or the Zoom part is going to initiate into the breakout room session. So the participants on Zoom, you're going to be broken up into the different activities, the different rooms that we have. And just to, we'll actually name what the rooms are when we get back into it. So yeah, we're going to bring in another speaker.
And just to also say that there will still be speakers speaking in the big live stream while folks have broken out into the breakout rooms.
And lastly, to the folks who are watching live stream on YouTube, we will be responding to the comments and questions that you have in the comment section. So the live feature will be interactive for you during that breakout session. Without further ado, Remy, to the stage, to the mic. Hey, Remy.
Hi, people. Hi, beautiful people. It's so lovely to see your faces. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to everyone so far who's spoken. Thank you to everyone who will speak. Thank you, Nana. Thank you, everyone today, for just being here. And thank you, Jay and Melanie, for creating this space for us to just breathe and talk and start just kind of being real for a little bit. So I appreciate that. I'm going to keep it short and a little bit sweet. I just like 2 points that I just wanted to bring up. For me, I come from born in Barbados, grew up in Brooklyn, and I've been in New York City since then. And as an artist, I've always had to figure out ways to support myself, right? So whether that's through teaching, whether that's babysitting, whether that's working as a server, I've done it all. I've sold knives. I've done it all. You know what I mean? You do whatever you need to do in order to make it necessary. Part of that has switched into my work with nonprofits and being a person who has a lot of admin experience. I mean, I wanted to get into it, like, first of all, just to get to see how this body works. You know, like, we as artists, we're filling out applications for things, we're participating in these programs, but there is another side of the admin world that we are not really privy to. And a lot of that is because most organizations aren't really transparent with practices. So before I even get to that, I think the structure of the nonprofit really needs to be revamped in a way that I can't even really begin to start to break down. I think everything from the top, the way communications happen, the board members, the funders, the structures, the patrons, the makeup of all of this just really needs to be examined. I mean, we want to, as someone who works in an institution, we want to make sure that we are creating opportunities for artists. We want to make sure we're creating opportunities that are equitable, that are transparent, but it's really, really hard to do within these structures. And it's up to us to start thinking about how we can reconfigure this, because it's not working. And so I would like to see some actual tangible steps into either creating some kind of standard, creating some more transparency. I mean, this is for like all organizations, and really start to look at how we're engaging with our artists, how we're engaging with audiences, how we're engaging with the educational components that all that stuff needs to just kind of be looked at one more time. And another thing I want to really just kind of push forward to is just the hoarding of resources in all pockets. Within artists, within organizations, we have enough already to make these things happen. And for some reason, we haven't figured out how to connect, how to really get some stuff going. And I just really want us to start thinking about those two, the hoarding of the sources. So, you know, it's finding the resources and the community that we already have, uplifting that to a different standard. And yeah, that's just kind of two things I wanted to talk about.
Thank you so much, Remy. That was really beautiful, and also something that I know many folks on this call experience, especially with art institutions and admin work. So I want to reflect back to you that I heard, and please confirm that I heard that you got into admin to learn about the anatomy of the industry, as well as that was an attempt to addressing the lack of transparency that you were noticing. that you are looking for tangible steps to creating standards from nonprofits to really restructure it. Things that, and I'm leaning into this a little bit with what Jay heard, but especially to meet the, to go up against this idea that words are enough. Like putting things on mission statements, putting things on pamphlets and boards is enough. No, it actually requires tangible action and like concrete action. And that you want us to really start sharing resources. The hoarding of resources gets us, humanity, nowhere. So to really see practices and value practices of resource sharing. Is that what I heard?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah.
Could you please, I now would like to invite you to say, or complete the statement my dance union has.
My dance union has collective ownership.
My dance union has collective ownership.
The dance union has collective ownership. Yes.
What? Thank you so much, Remy. Wow. Our dance union has collective ownership.
Yeah, like let's get out of that I hear you.
Okay. Yes, yes.
Thank you, Remy.
And thank you all so much for the opportunity. I appreciate it.
Appreciate you.
I believe this is now the time to say goodbye to our folks on the Zoom at this moment, and y'all are going to go to your breakout sessions. The intention of the breakout sessions, just for everyone on live, is for them to have conversations to continue like this town hall in a format that is about finding actionable steps and where we need to meet action, listening to where the pain is, listening to where the hurt is, and listening to where the need is. The folks who are facilitating these rooms are going to come back to us and share with us what they talked about in relationship to organizing demonstrations and naming demands, dismantling white supremacy within education, the healthcare and maybe there's emphasis on mental health care demands, and there will be a room for white accomplishments to, oh, that's a very specific phrase that was shared with me that I do not want to miss. That room has a very specific title, but white accomplices are going over there. I can't find it. I don't want to hold us up. But Nadia and Sean, who are facilitating that group, will say more when we come back. All right. So next up.
We're gonna.
Just a quick note. Sorry. Hi, everyone. A quick note. We are learning very, very fast here. Hi, here's my video. And the breakout rooms are going to take some time. There are a few people that have been put into rooms, and I'm going to continue putting you into rooms. Our prep work didn't hold. Yeah, so I'm currently putting 500 people into 4 different rooms.
Yeah.
So you'll be in the room, and then I will keep moving you. And if you are a host of those rooms and you're not in that room, please tell me, and I'll get you there as soon as possible.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Troy.
Yeah, just transparently, and this is not a fault on anyone. It's just like a natural, great gesture that happened. But when you started to move around with the offering your place to other people, especially BIPOC people want to be here, it changed our process of how we were putting people into breakout rooms. So we're just learning. And, yeah, we're learning. This is what was needed, obviously. So we're adapting in the moment. Part of the listening, part of the practice.
So now we would like to bring to the mic Zave, Raha, Ube, and Elaine. Are you here?
We are here. This is Zave.
This is Ube.
Hi, this is Raha.
Ube, want to get started?
Sure, yeah. We wrote a collective statement. We are artists committed to transforming society.
We seek to challenge systems of oppression both within and outside our work.
We are currently collaborators, and for absolute full transparency, we are receiving support from both Give Me Dance and Movement Research right now. And that's why we came together to talk together about to these questions. And thank you so much for sharing the mic with us as non-Black POCs who are making art within these same institutions.
So our lived experiences provide witness to to white supremacy in dance institutions. We have a short list. It's obviously non-exhaustive. That would take way too long. We all know that. But here are just some of our points, some top points, maybe not even top points, just some points to hold on to. Double clicking on Remy's note, power hoarding by white executive directors and top level staff at arts organizations. And I want to double click on the power hoarding because it's not, Black and brown people have resources, actually. We are very resourceful people, but who is hoarding the power? Who is hoarding the resources? That is the question. 2, leaders that exploit labor from, profit off of, and then gaslight Black, Indigenous, and POC women and queer trans folks in the workplace. And then 3, white patrons, donors, and artists, yes, artists, who are not held accountable for harm they cause because their money or their contribution is too important or they are too beloved by the community. That's an issue. And the most important thing about these is that people at all levels of power protect these individuals. These problematic individuals are protected because of these notions of being too important or being too beloved by the community at the expense of the marginalized. And that protection mirrors, extends how societies over the world protect white supremacy. And that's why it perpetuates. The irony is that arts organizations claim to be better at being progressive than other industries, which creates stagnation, prevents transformation, breeds toxic denial, fear, prevents dialogue for actual actionable change.
So as artists of Asian heritage and myself as someone who was born outside of the US, we work to stand in solidarity with Black and Indigenous artists. And when one of us is harmed, the rest of us are too, as was the case with Nana Chinara and her letter. We reject the culture of competition between us created by a lack of transparency and accountability on the part of presenting institutions. And we refuse the commodification of BIPOC artist labor by institutions who build their prestige and their profits from our work. Our labor is not about or for these institutions. We make art about and for the world, which we are always striving to love and transform. We refuse the notion that only minimal resources exist for our work and that of our fellow artists. This scarcity mentality breeds competition between us, while protecting those who profit from our work. Furthermore, we refuse the idea of a singular artistic genius. We want more resources for more artists. Our work is powerful and transformative, and the myth of a singular artist only minimizes our collective power to foundationally alter society.
And we're gonna challenge this toxic capitalism and racism inside of these arts institutions as long as we have to contend with it. We know that white supremacy depends on unfair systems like capitalism, and we know that capitalism thrives on hierarchy and profit over people. And that's why we build different alternative systems for ourselves that better serve everyone. We're in a historic moment right now of resource sharing, and it's happening in the midst of total institutional collapse. So the US government, hypercapitalism, the military police state, healthcare, it's failing all of us. And it's killing some of us. And this is happening over and over and over again. And at the same time that that's happening, neighbors are building mutual aid networks, and money and Metro cards and food and childcare and any kind of supply you could think of right now is available. People are getting what they need and there are no strings attached. And protesters are risking their health and their lives in the streets. Racial justice organizations and bail funds are getting dollars tremendously every minute right now. So the question is, why would you do anything other than what is happening right now, right? We're in total economic collapse, structural collapse, but we're sharing everything that we have. So we are asking right now for arts organizations, dance organizations to take a look at this very moment and throw away everything you know about how to run an organization. This is an appeal to folks on the call and people who are listening who run organizations, who resource artists. Look around you right now. Look at resource sharing that you can adopt, practices, culture. There's nothing to lose, and actually our collective wellness literally depends on it, because we don't have anything else to hold up that's holding us up. And we just wanted to say that, you know, we know that at the same time that institutions and organizations are systems of power, they are also simply groups of people who make decisions, and every single person has the ability to make your decision differently, and that's just the truth. So here are a few things that organizations can adopt today. You can commit to total transparency in contracts, resources, timelines. Artists want to know how institutions make decisions in distributing funding, and they want to know when and how those decisions might change. You can redistribute wealth in the arts economy. You can let go of hierarchical capitalist models of leadership. You can turn your nonprofit into a cooperative and give it to artists like us to run it and to figure out modes of support. And you can better resource racial justice work and community organizing work and healing work for queer and trans people of color, Black folks, Indigenous folks, and people of color. Ticket sales are never as more important as livelihood. That's our spiel.
Thank you, Raha, Zave, and Ube. That's right, period. So I will do my best to reflect back some of the things I heard. You spoke about issues of gaslighting, knock it off, hoarding resources, and also, this is a huge one, of protecting artists, particularly white artists, patrons, and donors who have caused harm and are held accountable for their actions. And that, I love this, you reject the notion that BIPOC folks are in competition. And a lot of times this competition is fueled with this idea of scarcity or lack of resources. And so I really appreciate these calls to action, which specifically state share resources there. And you provided a lot of different models that are existing right now where people are showing up. It immediately made me think about how there's no money for universal healthcare or for universal childcare, whatever it is, but we found money for stimulus, right? Like we didn't, but they did, right? So things are there, the resources are there. So stop telling us that it's not. And that, you know, we need transparency, how are decisions made, and that there needs to be a prioritization of healing work for BIPOC folk, and that ticket sales should not take priority or precedent over the health and well-being of the community that actually is giving the lifeblood that is necessary for this to even exist. So did I get it close?
Thank you.
Whoo, yeah. Thank you. So would you all like to offer us and My Dance Union Has statement?
Should we each do one word or something?
Yeah.
Just one word each.
But no scarcity, like.
Yeah, no restrictions.
Go, Raha, go first.
Okay. My dance union has artist-run organizations.
Go.
Our dance union has collective power and solidarity.
Our dance union has no owners, no CEOs, just artists and people working to build the world.
Ashe.
Melanie?
You're not gonna echo it this time either?
I just like that.
Again, I'm taking it into my spirit.
I'm really teasing right now. I'm sorry. I love y'all so much. I also hope everybody at wherever you're watching is echoing in your space. And I think honestly, the truth is Melanie is right. We were really deeply listening, and part of this deeply listening practice is really wonderfully overwhelming because there's so many chat things happening. So to be open and to listen to that while listening to people speak and listening to how we're responding inside is a lot. So if you can carry the task of echoing and tearing down these walls of Jericho for us, I'd be really appreciative. Thank you, Ube. Thank you, Raha.
Thank you for having us. This is such a gift. Thank you.
Thank you.
Great gift. Before I bring in Mariah, I want to say or ask us all to take a moment to take a breath. We've been going for a while. This is honestly, this is a marathon, right? This is not a sprint. So we can all take a moment to breathe, deep breath in together. And exhale. All right. Mariah, can you please?
Mariah already.
Mariah, who am I calling? What did I say? I'm not
Nick
looking at
K in the house.
Nick K. Oh, I was looking at the wrong document. My bad. Sorry, Nick K. Come to the mic. I looked at the old one. Hey. Yeah, you muted.
Hello.
Hey, hey.
Can you hear me? Okay. I wrote a lot of stuff, but I feel like we need to have some room for messiness. I was very surprised. For some reason, I thought this was going to be Black and people of color talking to each other about the dance community or the performance community. Maybe that had something to do with me not properly reading the email. I just want to say, you know, it's a really hard time, and I'd like to decenter whiteness. I would like to not talk about the things that many people who are more eloquent than me have been saying for hundreds of years. Black and brown people, performers and not performers. There's lots of books that the folks can read. There's lots of podcasts. You guys make one of those. There's lots of YouTube videos. So I would say you guys are doing a really great service, but I would also like to remind folks that that's not everybody's job and that it is work, but also I'd like to, you know, talk a little bit about how we imagine our art practices as work, and how in this particular moment, when we are seeing economic structures in flux and shift and break down and reveal what is constant inequality and disenfranchisement, how we can reflect on what our desires are, what our impetuses are to make work, and who we are making work for, and how we are shoving and shifting ourselves to fit in these systems that were never made for us and that are working the way that they were built to work. They are well-oiled systems that are built for extracting energy out of us. They are vehicles in which to continue the white supremacist project. That is what these organizations are doing and have done, whether it is dance, theater, experimental performance, gallery spaces, museums. This is what we're contending with. And I think we have to ask ourselves, where do we want to put our energy? What's our politics? And what matters to us most? As we lose our apartments, as we struggle with our health, as we see our loved ones lost to a myriad of health issues, we have to ask ourselves, right? Why do we dance? Why do we make art, and what for? And how much is your personal well-being tied into the community? You know, is the programmer, is the curator as invested in your health, whether you ate that morning, whether you have a place to sleep, as they are in whether or not you show up on the time in which you were contracted to show up? These are things that are sort of going through my mind, and yeah, I mean, I just need some time. I just want to create some space for the fact that I'm livid and I've been managing tears, and shit has been burning, and people have been hurting, and people have been dying, and we're still fucking talking about white supremacy and arts institutions. I mean, the same institutions that may not exist in September or October, who fired people, who are going to continue with the same bullshit if everything goes in their direction in a few months, right? Let's be real about that. All that to say, what did I want to? Yes, I wanted to put out anti-Blackness and how that exists, and how we need to be diligent about how white supremacy has also infiltrated the way we see ourselves and the way that we show up. it is not just about pointing fingers, but thinking about the change that you can make in your life and in your family and in your community. I think sometimes we get lost in the sauce. And I think the last thing I would like to say is that often I feel like we talk about the dance community with a capital D, and I think it's important to be more specific about which plural communities we're talking about and what privilege it is to be a part of the capital D dance communities, and the ways in which that once again is a part of this white supremacist project, right? And that, you know, we are all engaging with various different aesthetics and dreams for ourselves, and this is not a judgment based on individual desires, but I think we have to really continue to interrogate the inherent oppressive nature of the form in general, and that people have practices and continue to have practices outside of these structures the best way they can, which are usually not mainstream and funded. But we have to acknowledge that those exist, and people are continuing to dismantle in the ways that they know how and inventing new ways. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
That's
much.
all I have.
That's what's up.
Thank you, No.
Thank you, Nick.
Okay, I'm gonna just take a breath. And now attempt to reflect back to you what I heard. And I really want to say thank you so much for contextualizing this by making room for messiness. I think that's really, really needed in this context with the town hall, with what's going on. Like, how can we really make room for the messiness as we make these things work? But then also here you talk about decentering whiteness. And that is a very important need that we have. My handwriting got chicken scratchy. Oh, I'm also reflecting back on, reminding us to reflect back on our desires and impulses for making art and for who. Understanding that white institutions, whiteness, white supremacy is designed to distract us, and organizations are doing that and aiding in that practice. The question you have for us is where do we put energy? Where do we put our energy? And I didn't write this down, but I just want to see if these two things are connected, especially in relationship to the crumbling institutions, especially in this conversation that we're trying to dismantle white supremacy within. I feel like those two things, I heard them or see them as connected in how we place our energy, even in this conversation. Are we placing our energy in talking about things that are crumbling? Are we placing our energy in my response to something that we're trying to build, that we want to respond to, that we want to to caretake? Where do we make art and, why do we make art and for what for? Love that question. Asking about our personal well-being and is it connected to the community? I heard that you're livid and that there are tears and that we are managing tears. Having speaking specifically to anti-Blackness, as well as how it has infiltrated us and how it's not about pointing the fingers. We all get lost in the sauce. Wanting us to use specificity when we're talking about the dance community, and instead of using that capital D that often speaks to the white practices that are inherently white supremacist in their practice, in their form, in the culture. I think that was the last thing, yeah, to say that we want to acknowledge the inherent oppressive nature of those forms. Is that accurate? Or did I miss it?
Yeah, I think interpretation, listening, I think it is what it is. I think the last thing that I want to say, sorry to backpedal, is that I think what we have to try and be diligent about is to keep our theoretical and our analytical space free of a lot of what can become stiffness, right? To think beyond these particular moments and the bubbles of what we're fighting against in terms of these micro situations, but really thinking about how to dismantle these systems, which means to dismantle the systems in our country and globally, to talk about to refer back to what Jonathan was mentioning in the beginning. And I think that's more important to me than anything else, is liberation mentally and for all of us outside of just the work of dance. But thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And now I would like to invite you to complete the statement my dance union or our dance union has.
Can you hear me?
Yes. I did, and now I think I can't. Okay, I think, oh, I didn't, okay. We here, okay.
Oh, sorry about that. You know how it goes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
My dance union has lighter fluid and fire.
You better
My
breathe.
dance union has lighter fluid and fire. Ashe. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Nick.
Thank you, Nick. So for our last speaker that we'll bring forth to the mic, we have Marguerite. Marguerite, are you with us?
Here I am.
Hey.
Hi, everybody.
Hey.
Here we go. I'm just going to read some things. So right now I'm at grief. I'm in a place of grief and trigger and trauma response. I may not be fully in my body. I'm trying. R.I.P. Marcus White, dancer, choreographer, scholar, professor at Arizona State University, the place where he was the only Black person on faculty in the dance department, lifting up all your work, all your labor, all your energy, all your time, all of it. So I'm going to share a message and then read a prayer I wrote this morning in my journal. All the speakers before me echoed all of our experiences moving inside a white institution. I see it, I'm clear. I think we can all be clear now. We know what it is. This is a message and prayer for Black people, the people who are called Black. So yeah, a very clear message that has come to me every time I found myself drowning in the abyss is to not get it twisted and get out, period. Quoting Nana Chinara, I have missed so many warning signs because I was caught up in accolades and success. That is my doing. This is my undoing. I will no longer choose my own benefit if it means that I participate in upholding power and white supremacy by ignoring the flags. That makes me complicit too. As I actively work to undo this, I return to my values, my community. The message is very, very, very clear. We gotta get out and return to our values. We gotta get out and return to our values. We gotta get out and return to our values. We gotta get out and return to our values. We gotta get out and return to our communities. We gotta get out and return to our values. A prayer. For Black people, for the people who are called Black. I pray we heal. I pray we remove every obstacle in our lives that gets in our way of healing, that gets in the way of putting our arms around one another's shoulders, of crying, of holding, of heaving. Remove every obstacle to grieving. I pray to remove every obstacle to grieving. I pray to remove every obstacle to our activation. May the heat of this time make us pop off, become bigger than we ever were. May we use the heat of this time to explode, destroy, disintegrate the obstacles of our own personal societies. May we heal. May we know we matter. May we know we are all we need. May we know deep in our bones that we can respond to our own needs. We can show up for ourselves. We can build and be something else. We can leave We can let go of that fuck nigga that tells us we'll be nothing without it, that tells us, look at all it does for us and how dare we. That fuck nigga who is the shattered one. May we say sorry to ourselves for letting them in so far. Say sorry to ourselves for not remembering who we are. Say sorry to ourselves for playing along with the game, this age-long game of abuse, 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 abuse. We were born into this and we will die out of this. We are the ones who will leave. We are the ones who will abandon these worlds of abuse. We are the ones who will see it for what it is and leave its streets empty. Leave its cafes, its malls, churches, schools, fellowships, studios, kitchens, projects, tenements, cubicles, bedrooms, Facebooks, hotel rooms, hospitals, jails, empty. And we'll catch up with each other for a while, make sanctuary with one another for a while. We'll hide with one another for a while and rejoice. I'm inviting everyone to really just lift up your own rituals and your own visualizations, the things that you do to cleanse, the things that you do to call back, the things that you do to protect, to really amplify and do it all of the time. The things you do to psychically protect yourself. Yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, I agree. That was so powerful. I'm supposed to reflect back. Thank you for bringing Marcus into the room. He is missed, he is felt. And thank you for that prayer. I'm gonna leave it there. And I'm grateful for you, and thank you for offering that. And I will say, what I wrote down, and I will keep saying this, is we got to get out and return to our values. We got to get out and return to our community. We got to get out. So thank you.
Thank you.
With that, I will also offer an invitation, Marguerite, if you feel called to give us an affirming statement, one of the many you've given, of what does our dance union have? What does our future look like?
Our dance union has protection. Our dance union is sure. We move sure, knowing what is with us. We know what is with us. We know. Our dance union knows.
Our dance union knows. Thank you.
And the ancestor, that is and right on time. It looks like our breakout groups are returning back.
Thank you so much, Marguerite.
Thank you all so much.
Ooh. Marguerite, you do it every time, I swear.
I think this is a good time as people are transitioning in for us to just all take a breath. I want to honor anyone who has tears in this moment and tell you that it is appropriate. These feelings are appropriate. I think I'm telling myself that. But as folks are coming back in, and Melanie, I wonder if you could kind of check in with the facilitators, or actually facilitators who are coming in. Can you just let Melanie know when y'all are ready to share what you experienced in the room? I know some of y'all are talking. Facilitators who are coming back, please message Melanie privately and let her know when y'all are ready, and Melanie will let me know when everyone's ready to present. And I understand like the breakout session kind of got disrupted, wonderfully disrupted. Thank you so much for disrupting the process. But in that, I want to look at the YouTube community really quick to give that like buffer of time. Is that okay, Melanie?
That sounds good. I will take all the space you can give me.
Okay.
And thank you so much for all the folks. Sydney, I see you. Mariah, I see you. Thank you so much. We feel you, and thank you so much for your support.
Jazz and Lily Boss.
And you know, a lot of, like, again, we didn't get here on our own. I'm just thinking about all the things I've learned from you know, so many people here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I know there's a little 20-second delay with YouTube, so I'm gonna just like reiterate one more time that we're just interested. Oh, Casey, that's your thing, Casey. Can you let us know what's going on YouTube and what we might want to put some words to? Maybe Casey, well, we can come on if you're interested, or you can just message us. I'm looking at the YouTube community, and there's just so much gratitude there, and so much love and words of beauty and thanks. Thank you. Powerful. No, that's not necessarily it. Can we have Melanie? I'm feeling so directionless now.
Oh, what's up? Oh no, this is what we do. This is how we do on the podcast. We got this.
Thank you.
So I think as people are sort of coming back in, if you want to, so let me hear this, Jay. Do you want to check out what folks are doing on YouTube as folks are coming back in from the breakout?
Yeah, I was just wondering if that's something that Casey is hitting us up with, or others.
Casey.
Okay.
Can you feel me?
Can we share information on where we can follow and promote the work of our guest speakers? Yes, we will have a report out from this town hall. We will get towards the closing of this, we'll give more details to it, but this is a practice of listening, so we can know how to respond as the dance union organizes and continues to serve the field and within our values the way that we can, and to support all that's already happening. Our intention is to connect everyone to the information that is being shared, the folks who are doing the work, the organizers who are currently doing the work, and connecting people who are ready to act in specific ways to those organizations. That is our mission with the town hall and with future town halls. And you will see that happen across our social media platform, our website. This is the way that we are moving.
And also to say that, you know, we as, you know, podcast hosts, as organizers, as performers, we, at the center, at the core of everything we do is that we are artists, right? So this process, I know, feels very improvisatory in that we are learning a lot. We are trying to be compassionate with ourselves as we're figuring out. And as we sort of figure out things, definitely let us know what folks are interested in, what's needed, what questions you have, and we will do our best to keep building an amorphous container that continues to sort of be in relationship and response to what we need as a community, what's being asked for. We have a question of, will there be town halls focused on specific topics from tonight? That is a great question. We'll also announce this at the end, but we would love to do a follow-up town hall on June 15th. So save the date. Again, this will be a moment for us to sort of flesh out sort of some salient points and figure out, I won't say the best way, but but one way of moving forward, because I mean, again, like with art and dance, there's a whole bunch of things we could choose in this choreography. We're gonna pick a couple and see what happens.
From Hunter Valentine, Casey has shared with us, the question is, not from Hunter Valentine, it's either Ricardo or Orlando, is why do we have to care about white people? Honestly, this one goes to like a spiritual response to me. My response is that this is how I move in the world. This, I think for me, it's more about the world and how I see it. Let me see if I can contextualize it for you all. If you can't follow along, I completely understand. Words are often way too limiting for the experiences that I have. So this is a messy attempt to make something that feels very specific to me clear and evident to you. As I've been healing from my traumatic experiences that's related to a lot of what we're talking about, including patriarchy, including capitalism, and as I'm deepening my relationship with my ancestors, my spiritual practices, and with the land and with my higher self, I'm learning that as I move in the world, I'm attracting what I put out. And I feel called to love radically. And as I am moving to love radically, it means that if I am causing damage, or if I'm actively not loving any population of the world, any living being, any life, then I'm actually doing damage to myself. And I'm not interested in damaging myself anymore. Like, I'm not interested in the idea of nonviolent protesting because nonviolence often is self-violence. So I'm not interested in the ideas that promote any more violence anywhere, anyhow. I am very interested in enacting and reinforcing boundaries, because I think that's the most powerful way that we can practice love. Because when we create boundaries, we say, this is the best way I can love you and me. So as I go around this world of loving people, and honestly loving white people, I'm understanding that I can love people and hold them accountable to all their shit at the same time. And those things are not oppositional. Actually, the practice of holding someone accountable is an act of love to me, as I would want to be held accountable, and ask through this organization that, as our value is rooted in committing to accountability, we ask that you do the same to us. This is shared, and also very similar to why we are not in any institutions. If we need to hold somebody accountable, that was actually my first thing. I was like, look, if I need to hold somebody accountable, like Gibney, because I worked there and I knew that there would be a day that we will have to hold Gibney accountable, I knew that we couldn't be under any institution, so that we can freely do that and make sure that we are for the people. And we are Aries also. Look, I don't know everything. We're Aries. Part of being an Aries is being an experiential learner. So you bump your head and you learn along the way. But in that, I'd rather, there's no rather, that's just how it is for me. That's my experiences, and Melanie shares that with me. This is kind of why we move in this way. Yes.
Yeah, I would like to also add, or to offer, again, it's not fully fleshed out, but there's something about shared humanity that I'm interested in. And when that question came in, the first thing that came to my mind are I've seen a lot of demonstrations and protests where there have been white allies who have put themselves in the front line between Black folks and police officers, because we are in a state right now when we're very aware of what's at stake for putting our Black bodies on the line, right? And I know, like, just the way in which we can work together and the way that we can collaborate to break a system down together versus to separate, because that's exactly what capitalism does. It tells us why we're different. It tells us why we don't need to work together, that resources are limited, and it puts us against each other. And then we continue to be at odds rather than looking at the big monster in the room. And it's been doing it for years, and it's extremely successful. Look at where we are now, right? So it's like, how are we breaking these structures down and asking different questions and centering things in a way that respects and supports all of our humanity.
And I think just to round out some, like, how we hold white people accountable to these things, is similar to, is to say that white supremacy and whiteness affects us all very uniquely and very differently. So how I will be dismantling white supremacy as a Black person is going to be different than how white people need to dismantle white supremacy. And what the point of this is to, for me right here, is to figure out how, as I said many times before, to give homework to white people when we're talking about white people have work to do. I think I wanted to, after I knew that that was the truth, the next question I had was, how do I hand out homework? So this is, I think, of the phase of me learning how to hand out homework. It's imperfect, hold me accountable, let me know, I'm willing to listen, I'm curious about it. And I'm an Aries, so, you know, I'm gonna just run. I don't want, go ahead.
I was gonna say, would you like to transition into seeing what the breakouts are talking about?
Yeah, I think that's a great, I think it's time, all that.
So I would love, is Mars, Chelsea in the room? Can we invite you to the mic? They are our breakout group that is dealing with health demands and health concerns as we dismantle white supremacy.
Hey y'all, I think Chelsea's still with us and she's gonna be coming on. I can start, and then when Chelsea joins, she can join the voice. The time went by really fast. We addressed a couple of the questions of folks who voiced their concerns and their experience in the dance world. I want to share a couple of my dance union has that were brought up and voiced in there, and I think if we want, we can go into more detail. But one of the my dance union has that was really beautiful is my dance union has the space to listen, because when we're talking about mental health, it just gets glossed over, addressed, and people see us like machines that can provide, and that's just not the case. People are not really listening to the dancer; they're utilizing them as a tool, and people want to be listened to. Is Chelsea with us? Because I don't want to be the only person speaking. But just for the sake of time, I'm going to read again, and then when Chelsea comes on, Chelsea can join and speak to what she experienced. Another one is, my dance union has community care that is accessible for all, that supports our mental health and spiritual growth. Folks are, what I understand is that folks just don't feel seen, and their mental health doesn't seem to be a priority. I see Chelsea came on.
Hey, Chelsea, we're just doing some report backs on what came up for your group.
Yes. Yeah, so a lot of what was said is that a lot of people feel like they're being spread very thin, and there's not a lot of spaces for self-care and acknowledgement for that. But what a lot of people said they want mental health to look like in these spaces is being able to acknowledge some of the things that they go through, like holding 17 positions to be able to survive, and being able to find ways to talk about it. And I think that's one of the points. Anything else, Maya?
Yeah, some of the things that came up about how mental health reinforces white supremacy. There was this talking about hoarding resources, which echo some of the conversations that happened before we went into the breakout room. Also, this idea of competitiveness, and that to me sounded like this very clear thing we've inherited from white supremacy, which is, you have a position, but as soon as somebody better shows up, or somebody that fits the costume, or somebody that, fits the criteria, then they're the new better. And then that totally discredits you as the person that had the space before. And so this obviously addresses the need for recognition of the individual, right? The recognition of the individual and how their emotional capacity to be in a space that deems them dispensable, what it does, right? What it does to the folks. That's some of the things that sort of came up for me and that I heard in that statement. Chelsea, do you want to bring up some other stuff? I don't know how long
Yeah.
or how much time we've taken already.
Another point that was made was the idealism of like capitalism and productivity. To be able to, it's speaking to spreading yourself too thin again, that seemed to come up a lot in the mental health aspect. And the feelings of giving a lot of productivity and having energy at the end to kind of make sure that things are getting done in terms of like jobs and not getting compensated for like health insurance and different things like that. And yeah.
One thing that that I love that came out of that, I'm sorry, Chelsea.
Yeah, no problem, go ahead.
I think one of the things that came out of that when we asked for suggestions, like what do you want your space to look like? One of the suggestions was a restructuring of the day, right? Less dancing, more talking about what are the needs of the dancers, what are the needs of the people in the room, instead of just like move, 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 learn choreography, repeat, put your body through this. It's like, okay, how can the day be restructured in a rehearsal day to make sure that the dancers' mental health needs are being met, right? So more breaks. I see here more time to talking, more time to rest, more time to eat. I think that was a really great suggestion that came from one of the members. It's like, this is what we want to see incorporated into our working day as an artist so that we can address our mental health needs.
Absolutely. So it's like a priority. It's not an addition. Like it's actually, it's like eating. It's necessary. Yeah.
An added part of wellness.
Oh yes. Love that. Sorry, go ahead, Jay.
I think the only thing I want to respond to that is I love the idea of requiring mental health first aid training. And I think
oh yes, and it's offered for free. Well, it was offered for free in the city before everything went down. It's actually a great course if you know.
And I think as I think it's been reflected many times, different contexts, but just to bring it back in, I think as we ask and demand these things of whiteness, white people, white institutions, I think this is also means that we practice these things ourselves. I think that's how we like really take care of not just each other as a whole, but if we're talking about really taking care of Black people, like having mental health first aid training from Black person to Black person is just as helpful dismantling white supremacy as holding a white person accountable and white institutions accountable to their mental health practice. Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mars. Thank you so much, Chelsea.
We'll have these synthesized and made available to the public once everything is sort of fleshed out. So thank you all so much for your contributions.
Thank you. Who do we have next, Melanie?
Next, we're going to have the organizing and demonstration group with Dare and Christine.
And naming demands.
Hey, what are your demands?
Hello, I'm Dare. Very happy to be here. My heart is racing so fast, but I do want to say thank you to everybody. And I'm going to take a second to be silent. Whew. Okay, so I had gone into the breakout room late because we're having some technical difficulties. And I just want to say out there that I really apologize about that feeling like a disruption to the conversation. We are all learning here, and everybody's voice is just extremely valuable, and things are being recorded. So the things that you said that someone was able to take notes are going to be available at some point. / if you were taking notes, as I heard some people were, please, we can find a way to like share that and have that information, because it's just all really important. So our group was about organizing demonstrations and coming up with demands. A little bit of what I heard was that there's not enough transparency. In dance organizations, in dance institutions, in the schools, there's not enough transparency about who's getting grants, who's getting awards, who's getting residencies. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, let's demand it. Let's demand for this transparency. The same way that people like to put on their boards, like social justice, like put on your boards, like exactly how you're coming up with these decisions, if that's helpful. A lot of the same inner circles seem to be getting the same seem to be getting the, I don't know, the opportunities people were speaking about. So I guess demanding that they look into that and change the way they're deciding, which I'm struggling with a little bit, because I'm wondering if that's just demanding for another way for white supremacy to work, or because if we're trying to dismantle this whole idea of this structure, it's like, what are those demands? But, you know, we're working on this together. You know, demand for, oh, this was great. Setting up advisory boards and pay them salaries that are made from the community that the dance institutions are actually in. Like, we can consider ourselves a kind of advisory board if any institution wants to hear from us. It's like so many people here, it's beautiful. But also the people that, I don't know, maybe are living like right in the Lower East Side, or living right, like, I don't know, right in Brooklyn and Bedside. Like, if there can be communities where, if there could be advisory boards where we're asking them to advise the way that they're using funding to support local artists, I think that should come from them. That is pretty much all I got in my time in being there.
Thank you, Darwin.
Clear.
Christine, do you have things to add? Oh, you muted, boo.
Sorry. I'm gonna be real transparent, y'all. I wasn't in the group.
That's fair.
So I'm looking at words that are in our notes. And yeah, I'm gonna just lift up what I see here. Yeah, we went over that. How can we improve residency/art creation system? How can this be better facilitated? And then also there's a lifting up of navigating the landscape. I think this means maybe the art ecosystem in order to get the resources. Like, that's a barrier, so yeah.
Oh, there was another thing that I feel is kind of important. Someone was speaking about being a recent graduate and, you know, kind of just not having the information or the tools to kind of navigate the space that they're now supposed to benefit from. And I have not really synthesized that into a demand, but it seems like, you know, from us as a community and from these dance institutions, like, we need to help people who are in that predicament of stepping into like severe capitalism and like having to like navigate that. It seems like there needs to be resources for recent graduates.
We have talked about this quite a bit on the podcast about, yeah, even in, this will probably come up in our next report out about education systems and the intention of teaching a reality that no longer exists. So you have graduates coming out to a dance world that no longer even is functional or even exists for them, you know? So that is an interesting point. Also, in your group, it's interesting because I was also thinking about organizing and demonstrations in terms of people who are in the streets, who are protesting, and what does that look like? And I just want to quickly offer, I started reading a book called Stepping Left, which talked about how in the 30s and 40s, folks were using, especially downtown folks in New York, were using dance as a way of protest because they were using movement to help people and support people moving together and in a line and how to move forward together and taking care of their bodies in certain ways. And even for our folks that are right now on the streets, right now protesting, it's like, how can we, if we're not in the streets, how can we support that work? Even if it's like, for me, it's like making sure that I have a number to a lawyer. So if someone calls me, they have that, or that someone knows who needs medications, or making sure folks have water, of like for our brothers and sisters who are in the streets, like how can we also, regardless of what the institutions are doing, you know, like what are we doing to support each other?
Yeah.
And I see over here, Andre Zachary saying some good stuff.
Some good stuff. I want to speak to that actually. Before I get into that, because I think it's going to take some time. Dare and Christine, thank you so much. And I also want to speak it very swiftly because of time. We will be losing the ASL interpreters at 2 hours. So I want to make sure that for our disabled and deaf hard of hearing, I might say that incorrectly, but for our disabled community, that we are making sure that you hear all and are a part of all and witnessing all. But to speak to to speak to Andre's concerns about how we haven't had elders speak. I want to echo that we did not have elders speak. I also want to echo that we did not invite elders to the conversation and to the building of the town hall and to a lot of the organizing. And Melanie and I were honestly very contemplative over that decision. And I want to say that it was the decision. I want to be very transparent that we decided in many ways who we were inviting. Part of the organization, I can speak, Andre and anybody else who's interested at another time, I could speak to more about how we organize more transparently. Again, for sake of time, I don't want to go down that route, but I do want to speak to the intergenerational issue that we have in this American context, in this dance community, in Blackness, and in life. We do need to have more open conversations and direct and uncomfortable conversations about how our youth, our generation does not honor our elders, do not listen to our elders, do not include our elders, and do not even seek counsel from our elders out of many different places of not knowing. And I hope that in this, as we continue to have town halls, that we can address these issues and spend more time with these issues so that we can also extend invitations and address this concern. And I also want to say that while elders have not been invited to this conversation, there are so many people in the dance community right now who have not been invited to this conversation, who have not been invited to this particular town hall that we organized. And it's also reflective of many other ways that the youth, and not just the youth in turn like my age generation, I mean like literal children, have not been invited to conversations to speak about what's going on. My value, honestly, is rooted in that if the society that I want, back up, the society that I want to live in and the world that I want to live in is one in which children at all points and in all contexts are safe. The image of a child being able to walk around and be outside and be completely confident that they'll be taken care of by all humans is the point. So I think as we brought up elders, thank you so much for holding us accountable to that. I also want to hold us all accountable in this conversation to the other part of our intergenerational conversations, that we also need to hear from children. We need to hear from babies, and we need to listen to what they have to say and how they are affected by it, especially if it's messy, especially if it's imperfect, and especially if it is not fully aware of what's going on right now. Honestly, I'm getting hot right now because we do not hear them. We do not hear them. We don't even seek to listen to them. And they're the ones that are most unaware of what's going on, and we're not guiding them. We're also concerned about the elders. I really appreciate that. I'm sorry the fire is going to come with those words, but I also want to say that we are not talking about children. So when we go up and talk about how the elders aren't in here, what are the elders doing for the children? What are we who are stepping into elder roles doing for the children? How are what we're making for the children, for the babies? So if we're going to talk about intergenerational conversation, I want to make sure that we hold ourselves accountable to all ends of the generational conversation. Keep that thing full. And I mean that, and when I'm saying this, I'm looking at myself in the Zoom conversation. Boy, you better keep that thing full. Because these children out here don't have nobody. They don't have nobody if we don't have adults right now fighting for them.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
I hear everything you say, and I respect everything you say. I also want to offer that we did in fact reach out to some elders, not to speak in the speaking portion, but to be a part of this. And there were texts and there were messages and things that went out. So there's no ignoring. And in the rapid rate in which this moved, we are learning a lot, and we will continue to learn a lot, and we will continue to grow, and we'll continue to figure out the things. And yes, let's keep these intergenerational conversations important, and let's keep them moving.
Yes, and Andre, my response honestly is not specific to you or specific to anyone who echoed the need for elders. I hold that. I also want to say that it just reminded me of the context of the conversation of needing for intergenerational conversation. That's why I went to. Thank you for clarifying, Andre.
Yes, and then you're speaking of Black organizations. Yes, yes. Let's chat, please.
Yes, and this is one of many town halls. We have to keep doing this. We have more, as you see, to talk about. Next group, we have to.
All right, we're gonna
move a little swiftly.
yeah, we're going to move swiftly to quickly hear from the dismantling in education from Jeremy and Q. Jeremy and Q. Are y'all with us still? Hey, y'all. Hey, hey.
Hey.
On. So yeah, so there's more work to be done, but things that were started in our group. Also, shout out to Kat, who's part of the Dance Student Union, for taking notes. Some quick things that I just want to bring to the surface. We did have an opportunity to hear, at least from sort of the K through 12, the undergrad and the graduate experience in the time that we had together. Some things that rose to the surface for me, thinking about on the K through 12 end, the hypersexualization of our young Black girls and our young Black femmes, especially the ways in which attire is turned into a weapon. Dress codes are weaponized against our young Black and brown dance students. Also wanting to pull out, coming from the undergraduate and graduate level, thinking about our audition processes, right? And so when ballet is the first thing that you have on the schedule for an audition, we already know what's up, right? When modern is the second thing, or there's 0 Afro-diasporic forms involved in your audition, or there's 0 space for anything outside of ballet, modern, contemporary forms, we know what's up, we know who you're looking for, we also know who you're excluding in that process. So we see you. And yeah, Q, you want to jump in here? Anything that rose to the surface for you?
Yeah, absolutely. Those are all good. Peace to everyone, love and light to everyone. Yeah, on top of that, speaking about the elders, the need for the people within our communities to marginalize and erase their life experience as they go into grad school programs and MFA programs is insane. They have to take all of their knowledge, valuable knowledge that they could teach teachers within the academy, and they have to put that away in order to assimilate and conform to the programming and the curriculum of the system. There's, at the end of the day, these institutions, and being a person who has an MFA themselves, these institutions cannot exist without us in this space, evolutionizing and raising up the topics and the diversity that exists within those walls. And yet there's no questioning, no inquiry about what they can learn from us in regards to the curriculum. And if there is an inquiry, it's between the faculty. It's silenced as far as the grad people are concerned. As far as the undergrads are concerned, there is very little, going back to this sense of transparency, very little transparency to show that need consistently throughout the programming. So that's one way that we also saw white supremacy living in this education system.
And also, I want to quickly add, from my personal experience, what I am learning coming out of my first year of graduate school is that in MFA, those 3 letters, right, do not necessarily equate to the knowledge you hold and the knowledge you carry, and does not necessarily equate to being an expert. And so also thinking about how our educational institutions are showing up for different types of experts in the room, how they are giving those experts voices, not pushing them aside to extracurricular activities or to non-major courses, but really implementing Afro-diasporic, Black, Brown, Indigenous forms as part of the core curriculum, because it's past time.
And I would be remiss without just using this time to ask ourselves how these institutional issues that we're bringing up, and it's valid for us to bring them up and important to bring them up, also recognizing that these issues that exist outside of us are mirrors that exist to show what exists inside of us. And so how are we asking these questions to ourselves on a daily and individual basis? I just want to put myself, and Jay, I hope you don't mind with this, that the very beginning of the Zoom call, you ended up mentioning about the street and club dance community. And that comment ended up coming from an elder of mine. And I ended up hitting Jay with that comment, but I did not ask my elder if I could do that. I didn't involve their name, but I also didn't ask them if I could do that. And so Jay ended up asking me like, hey, did you let them know that you were sharing this with me? And I had to like, damn, like I messed up in that way again, and I'm growing, right? So these things just exist in the very what seems as though it's minute and it's mundane, but it exists in the daily, those daily choices, those daily questions that we have to go through over and over and over again. We have to choose the good side, or the side that we feel is virtuous to ourselves on the daily. And through that decision making, that's how we end up changing the systems that we're trying to dismantle. So I just also want to put that out there as well.
Thank you so much, Q. Thank you so much, Jeremy. Really appreciate you and for the insight. We are nearing the end, and I just want to take a moment to practice some listening from specifically in this, how I'm responding to this, to what Nick K said about centering whiteness. We did have a breakout group, or it happened, a breakout group titled White Accomplices Moving from Affinity to Accountability and Reparations. Nadia and Sean facilitated that. Thank you so much. And Marco took notes. We will not be hearing from them, from that group tonight, because that will be centering whiteness in any way. So what we're going to do is move on and we will share the report out from that room at another time on a different format, but we're going to keep this as it is a space that does not center whiteness. And with that, we're going to transition into closing this thing out.
Yep. And thank you for that labor, that work that was done. Just to know that this, this is, again, thank you everyone for coming through. This was our first, it was, I feel like, beautifully imperfect. We have a lot of things that we're going to continue to work on and work through. And to say that our intention to come here was to support really deep listening and to know how, when, and where to act as it relates to dismantling systems of oppression, as well as advocate for actionable steps and collaborations with organizers who are already doing that work.
Yeah, the Dance Union, I see it as a hub to connect members of the dance community who are ready to take action with organizers doing the work. So this town hall and future town halls will be recorded. So return to it, share it and reference it. We'll be sending out follow-up emails to share the consolidation of notes. We will be taking some time to sit through that, and we'll be taking what is actionable. So that means we will be connecting people who are ready to organize with organizers. So for those of y'all who follow us on Instagram and other social media services, when we post things or you're interested in DM, let us know what and where you would like to organize and how you like to organize. And as we can continue to connect our collective mind, let us know who's doing the work that matches where people are ready to be active in. So in the comment sections, in the spaces, let us know and tag folks and let these organizers who have been doing the work and pave the way for us to even have this town hall know that we're ready to give them some more people power and continue the work of dismantling and healing and also, okay?
And yes.
We will also, go ahead. I was just gonna say we will commit to highlighting, featuring these organizations doing the work that folks are in this town hall want to see, and we will ourselves make connections, nurture connections, and have these uncomfortable conversations personally and as the Dance Union with organizations and organizers doing the work.
Yes, and we get this many times, so we just want to be super clear up at this point that we are not a union modeled after like a traditional labor union. We are members of community, from performers and stage crew to administrators, funders, donors, who are looking to both nationally and internationally dismantle systems of oppression. And so that means the dance union is all of us. And it's all, it can be all the work that's happening in a multitude of places and spaces.
We are united through our intentions and our practices, rooted in our values to commit to curiosity, live in questions and conversations around accountability, put prose into practice, and engage in deep listening with the dance community. With these values, we're learning how to identify needs and move to support those needs. Previously, with the Dance Union, we started a podcast, and that was its purpose and intention was to talk directly to issues instead of around them, breaking the silence that is often the culture of dance communities, and also model the behavior of speaking truth to power, and then hopefully inspiring others to do the same. The fund that we started, the New York City Dance Relief Fund, that fund was to support a community we anticipated would be ignored through this pandemic, when the pandemic relief fund started to kick off. And more specifically, we learned how and the impact of moving urgently when we see the signs that our systems of oppression are collapsing, or our systems of oppression are hurting us, or systems are collapsing, and that there is need that is going to help. Understanding the fabric of white supremacy and more, and all these systems of oppression gave us the know-how on where to move urgently. And we thank everyone who has supported the New York City Dancers Relief Fund. We will be, I'm sure somebody probably already shared it in the document or in the comments somewhere, but yes, we still sending funds. I mean, still sending relief, so help us out.
Yes, the application's open until Sunday.
Until Sunday,
Please
yes.
apply.
The town hall, and this new project with the town hall is to help direct members of our dance community who are finally fed the fuck up and ready to dismantle oppressive forces.
Yes. So again, thank you everyone who made this possible. Thank you for everyone who showed up, and it's been amazing to see your faces. We will follow up, so stay tuned. Please stay healthy, stay safe, and we will see you soon.
See you. So Melanie, real quick, do not end yet. You can like go mute and all this other stuff, just don't end the Zoom yet, because people tend to do a lot of thank yous and stuff in the comments, and I want to be able to save them. So,
and thank you, virtual world on the YouTubes.
And thank you, Jacinda and Jessica, our ASL interpreters. Troy, please come on and thank the transcriber too. I don't know their name, please. That'll happen at some point. Thank you to the folks, our close friends and family in dance who came and helped us organize this. We'll go and start to name names, but Troy is here.
Thank you to Kara and to Katie. Yes, Kara and Kate. Thank you for transcribing.
Yes. And as we, thank you so much. And as we finish out some thank yous, thank you, Christine. Thank you, Remy. Thank you, Zave. Thank you, Raha. Thank you, Ube. Thank you, Elaine. Thank you, Mariah. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, Marguerite. Thank you, Mars. Thank you, Dare. Thank you, Kat. Thank you, Jeremy. Thank you, Q. Thank you, Kat L. Thank you, Nadia. Thank you, Sean. Thank you, Marco. Thank you, Brianna. Thank you, Elena. Thank you, Casey. Thank you, Troy. Thank you, Hadar. And thank you, Chelsea.
All doing the work behind the scenes and on the scenes.
And thank y'all. Oh my God, no, big thank y'all to y'all. Make this happen. Really did. Really made this happen. Did not think it was going to be what this is. So thank y'all for showing up in ways, and it's specifically for giving us some contribution, some money to help be able to compensate the labor that went into making this. That was something that was in our blind spot. So the community said, hey, you should be looking at this. And that's why we're committed to listening, because this is taking heed of that has really got where we are. So again, we are the dance union. We are the change we want to see.
Yes. And I want to thank my mom for not messing with the internet.
Okay. Oh, this. I'm gonna just turn my camera off.
Rest well, sleep well, everyone. I'm gonna go watch cartoons.
Keep the thing on. I'm gonna just turn things off and just keep it on for like a few more minutes until people empty out. I'm probably gonna put on some music.
Thank you.
Y'all are amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much. Black Lives Matter. Thank you.
Period. Say their name. Say his name. Say her name.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Jay.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Out here, Winnipeg, Manitoba. Thank you so much. Big up.
Make sure y'all drink some water or not. It's you grown.
Come on, Jessica.
Thank you, everyone. This is beautiful.
Thank you so much, Jessica. Appreciate you so much. All right, I'm going to save the chat right now and then we'll be out. Oh, want to do it? You want to do the sign off? You don't want to do the sign off? The 5, 6, 7, 8?
Yes.
Okay, you ready?
Yep.
5, 6, 7, 8. We
out.
out. Peace.
Jay, you actually have to be out.
I know. Hold on. I was making sure the video was saved.